I heard a great interview with you with Poppy Harlow,
Yes.
where it was a terrific interview, and you talked about finishing Harvard, finishing HBS, going to Morgan Stanley. You had all the learning, you had all the knowledge, you had all the drive, but what you didn't realize was the importance of networks or of how to connect with people or how to build these relationships. Can you just talk a little bit about the impact that had on you or how you came to realize that?
I realized that being smart and working hard wasn't enough. It still wasn't getting me at the top of the class, despite how smart I thought I was and despite how hard I was working, because you cannot outwork me, Dad. But I realized that, there was somebody who had to be behind closed doors arguing passionately on my behalf. But at the end of the day, while performance currency gets your name on the list that's being discussed behind closed doors, when your name is called, if no one else in that room can speak on your behalf, they just go to the next name. And it has nothing to do with your ability to do the job or nothing to do with whether or not you deserve top bucket or middle bucket. But because no one in that room speaks on your behalf, by default, either you don't get chosen for that specific opportunity or you end up in the middle bucket. And that was the aha for me. And that's when I realized that there was a missing component in my success equation, and it was a relationship of a sponsor, as I started calling it way back in 1990.
And how did you find a sponsor?
I started realizing that the sponsor, number one, had to be within your organization, unlike a mentor. Your mentor can be outside of your organization, but they just need to understand your context. But that person needed to be in the organization, and they needed to have a seat at the decision-making table, and they needed to have some juice. So once I figured that out, then it was, okay, who can I identify? And I started thinking about who has access to my work. It doesn't necessarily have to be your boss. It's great if it is, but it just needs to be somebody that will have credibility behind closed doors when they're talking about you. So any exposure to your work gives them that credibility.
Sometimes you run into people who feel that once they discover this path, they'll be accused of being nakedly ambitious, of being, overly career focused. Did that ever slow you down?
That's right. And let me tell you what I tell people who worry about that, because when I say that, people say, oh, but what about if people think I'm brown-nosing? And you must realize that there's not one role in any industry where you can succeed without a relationship.